This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Tuesday, October the 25th, 2022, episode 406. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome into another edition of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your weekly source for the latest on and in and around the video game industry, with a little bit of common sense political commentary sprinkled in here and there. My name is Nick Craig. You can give me a follow on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. You can check out my daily political antics. Follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. You can check out my daily political antics at nickcraig.com. You'll also find all of my social media on there as well. Joining me as he does each and every week from an 80s bedroom where he's likely chatting with men on AOL chat or IRC that are claiming to not be.
Yahoo. Wasn't AOL. Yahoo.
Sorry. Yahoo Messenger, who are claiming
to message me.
Yeah, claiming to be other 15-year-old boys. They're actually 45-year-old men. Is Brian with an eye all.
I like video games.
Yeah,
You want to come to my apartment? I'm 15.
Yeah, I've got a cool stereo system. Come check out my stereo.
Exactly.
Check out my
if you want
bass
to find me
boost.
at Brian, at Brian Ultra on Gab Parler, Getter, Truth Social, or of course at Boise Computer on Twitter. We'll see. Supposedly that's still going through the sale. We'll see if I keep that.
What about your parlor? You got a parlor now that our boy Kanye.
I do have a parlor as well.
Okay,
I think it's Brian Aldridge there as well.
If
you want to check out my blog, biteoftech.com, and of course our website, infectionpodcast.com. If you go there on the right hand side, there's join our server on Discord. We got 11 ARC servers going right now. We actually have a Conan Exiles server going. So if you're interested in playing some Conan Exiles, we got one that has some mods on there for building, a lot of cool stuff. I don't know. We'll see how long we keep that up, but it's going at the moment. If you want to watch the live show, you can do that through Twitch or YouTube. And then if you want to listen to the show, you can do that in the podcast form. After the recording is done, we upload a copy of that. And you can listen to that through the lower right-hand side. Lots of different platforms and ways to do that. But if you are listening to the show, that means that the particular show notes for that episode have been uploaded as well. And you can go there, and there's a built-in audio and video player and links for each of the different topics that we discussed during that show. So maybe there's a video that you wanted to watch and you were listening to the show and you want to see that after the fact, or maybe watch it while you're listening. Just jump on there and we'll have a link to that, or source material like tweets and things from game developers, whatever it is that we're referring to. Links are throughout that. So really helps with people that are listening. If you want to support the show, there's an option up top for support, or infectionpodcast.com/support.
Yes, and we thank all of the folks that have given us some great support over the past couple of years. Brian, I want to open with, I think, a sleeper of a story, and you actually surprisingly had it in the show notes. I wasn't expecting it because it's a very odd story, but it goes to show you the current status of the video game industry, the folks that are, a quote, I'm going to use one of their terms, Brian, allies of the video game industry, and it's that they do not deal in good faith. And this is surrounding the voice actress that is the voice of Bayonetta, which, by the way, if you've never played the original Bayonetta games back on the Xbox 360, they were kick-ass games. They were a lot of fun. I really enjoyed them.
I've never played any Bayonetta. So you're saying that's something I should try?
Yeah, Bayonetta is a really great game. So I very much enjoyed Bayonetta, and the new Bayonetta 3, is scheduled out. It's in development right now, and the individual who is was the voice of the original Bayonetta by the name of Helena Taylor apparently went on Twitter she did go on Twitter and claimed that the developers behind Bayonetta were offering her just $4,000 to voice the game, which is, in her case, she claimed that was an insulting amount of money. And on face value, that is an insulting amount of money for somebody that has already got a track record, is already the voice of the game. That's a problem. But As time went on, and according to a new report out of PC Gamer, the claims that the voice actress made are complete nonsense. According to Platinum Games, who was the ones who were hiring her to do the voice acting, they would have hired her for at least 5 sessions, paying her $3,000 to $4,000 for 4 hours in the studio. So nearly $1,000 an hour.
Almost $1,000 an hour.
To voice
wasn't
act.
quite enough for her.
It wasn't quite enough, which would have been about $15,000. Now, is that earth-shattering money for voice actors? No. Could it number maybe be a little bit higher? Sure. Maybe she wanted 25 or 30 grand. Okay, maybe we can negotiate. But see, that's not what it was. She rejected the offer and asked for 6 figures as well as residuals. So she wanted to essentially make over $100,000 to voice act in the game and then get royalties for all intents and purposes on it. What in the hell was she thinking?
Yeah, this is something where I really think, well, she probably figured because she was a previous actor in this that they felt obligated, or, people would be mad if she wasn't the same voice, or, they want to have that carry forward. And she probably thought she had him over a barrel, but obviously she didn't. They offered her some sort of a price. She said, no, I want this much money, which was many multiples above what they were saying. And here you go. Turns around, we got an issue. At least here, the thing is, usually you get one side of the story, and then there's no return, unless it goes to court. Here, at least they did come back and say, hey, no, actually, we offered her this much, which is a reasonable amount, at least for a first offer. I don't think that's an insulting offer for 15. I don't know how well that game's going to sell. And she hasn't. I mean, she's acted in some other things, I think, right? I'm assuming she's done something else. This isn't the only thing she's done. If this is one of the only things she's done, that's really not that bad. They went on to hire people that have been in Mass Effect and things like that. Ones that have big a history of some big titles. So if she really wanted it, it just sounds like she came back with something that was so out of the ballpark that they're just like, well, why? What's the point of coming back? $15,000 versus a minimum of $100,000 plus residuals is not the same ballpark. There's not really a point in negotiating at that point.
Yeah. It's not even ballpark. And of course, as you would expect, Brian, individuals jumped to her defense, and this is what's wrong with the video game industry, and it's discrimination because she's a woman, and just so on and so forth, because we only saw and heard one side of the story, and that one side of the story turned out to be complete and total nonsense. And now she's having to she's now telling people to boycott buying Bayonetta. She's now telling people that they need to donate their money to a charity instead of buying the game from a, quote, corrupt and greedy people. So corrupt and greedy that she, worked for them in the past and took a paycheck from them in the past. It's just so unabashed with these people. It's just
frustrating.
It's not even frustrating. It's just laughable. I mean, this is just how they operate.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is it's that entitled mentality. I just think that if she was serious, she would have said, okay, as you said, 30, double their number. If you think for some reason that you're that important in the series, say $45,000. Try coming back with something.
Yeah.
But to then say, something that could be 10 times what they said is just not reasonable. And then to bash them afterwards and to lie about it, to go and talk to a place, go to Twitter, and to lie about the numbers that they gave you and only give per session fees and claiming that is the whole total paycheck. That's where the big issue comes in. You could have said that's per session, and then people realize that you're making about almost $1,000 an hour. Guess what? Your sympathy goes out the door.
Yeah, and that is, again, that's why I said this is. It's disingenuous, and that's what that's my biggest problem with this stuff. Is it's not that It's not that we can't have a conversation. It's not that it's not that we're unable to talk about it. It's that the information isn't accurate. It's that the stuff is misleading and everything else. That's my biggest problem is that, and then when it's called out, they just double, triple down and claim, oh, well, now you just need to donate their money.
Yeah. And that's the thing. At least she got kind of caught in it to where she just didn't bash the company. Because, on Twitter, that's the thing. People will jump on this bandwagon because it happens over and over and over again in this type of a culture where, someone will say, oh, this is something that happened. And then everybody starts boycotting the company when they have no idea what. I mean, just look at the whole Blizzard Activision, or not Blizzard. The whole Blizzard thing with a lot of that came up. Most of the people probably have no idea what happened there.
Yeah.
Or with the Activision deal, most of the people have no idea what's going on with the culture. They just, want to bash the president or the CEO of that company. They don't know. They don't even have idea whether he's done anything wrong or what's been done to fix kind of issues with the culture of the company or with complaints that have happened. But you know what? There was an article written or someone said, oh, I heard this or I feel like this. And all of a sudden everybody's bashing the company and saying all these false facts, that they've come up with. And at least with this one, as I said, it kind of came back and people are knowing the truth, or at least people that are willing to listen.
Yeah. So, sleeper story of the week. It doesn't get much play because it's kind of an odd story, odd event. But I think it just a story like this, which was so quickly debunked, Brian, I think perfectly, it's like just tying a little bow on top of everything that is wrong with the current video game industry and the moral outrage. So, no sympathy for the Bayonetta lady at all.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with it.
I want to. Oh,
do you have a preference? Yeah,
no,
you have a preference.
No,
go ahead. I'm perfectly happy if you want.
I was going to say a follow up on a story that we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah,
Stadia announcing they're shutting down, and don't worry, Stadia is still shutting down. That news is not changing. But Brian, you brought up about some poor bastard that's got 6,000 hours worth of Red Dead Online,
Red Dead progress, yes,
on his Stadia account, and it's because the Stadia edition, because unlike NVIDIA Now or some of these other services where you're essentially just virtualizing a computer to play these games, Stadia is its own platform.
Other service.
Well, you're streaming it from, in the case of NVIDIA Now, it's literally just a Windows VM or a Linux VM that's streaming it. So you're using a Steam account or something. You're still playing a Steam
game. You're still playing an Epic game, whatever it is, an Xbox game. So here, this was one where they create a specific client, and you're really playing through a client that Rockstar has made just for Stadia. That was kind of the downside of the whole Stadia concept. With them, they said they could do some, make it faster and do all these things with it, which didn't really happen. But here, the problem is when Stadia shut down, all of a sudden your game, your save, your progress is locked only in Stadia's world.
Correct.
And so Rockstar, through their support account, had contacted him and let him know that they're going to be helping him out. So here, I'll read this really quick. Hi, Color. We are pleased to confirm that all active Stadia players who played Red Dead Online within the 30 days prior to Stadia announcing their shutdown will be able to carry over their earned Red Dead Online dollars, right? Gold bars, XP, roll XP, and roll tokens to another existing account on either PC, Xbox One, or PlayStation 4. Players will just need to have the target game account linked to their Rockstar Social Club account and can reach out to us via the Rockstar support website for assistance. So for him,
wow,
he'll be able to move it to whatever platform that he desires, which is pretty cool. Now, that's good of Rockstar to do that, but we have another company here that we've talked about quite a bit that was not willing to do the same thing, and that's PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. They will not be moving any of their progress from Stadia to any other platforms.
Oh, my heart.
Yeah, so it comes down to, it said, no, we will not help migrate into new services. The schedule for migration is far too tight, is what they say. So they won't be doing this. I can't imagine that it's very different. Like, it's just a bunch of skins, right? And
No,
skins
it's
and
progress and
yeah,
season
high
pass and all that
scores,
stuff.
things like that. But mostly your season pass ends up in skins and then their virtual currency, right? I mean,
Yeah,
in
but
the
it's
end of
tracking
it,
the progress of it. So let me say this,
so they're
and
not going to be bothering.
I've got a hot take for you. Well, and the reason they're not bothering is because there probably nobody has any progress on pub. Nobody has any progress. Most
Not
likely.
worth their man hours.
No, I got a hot take though. This is one, and there's not many, Brian. This is the only reason Rockstar can do this is because of the Rockstar social account. If they do not have a Rockstar social account and all of this stuff was done in individual, managed by individual consoles on individual logins and individual accounts, you'd be completely SOL. The only way that this is possible is because of cross-platform and because of Rockstar Social. I'm not giving anybody a free pass for launchers and other BS that's associated with it. But if there is an advantage, this is it. When a platform shuts down, you can migrate your stuff, and without that, the only way they could do this would have to be, I guess manually they could give this guy's account a whole bunch of stuff. But that would just be a nightmare. And they probably wouldn't do it because it would take so much time to try and get this guy's account clicked over or whatever it would be. So maybe a little bit of a saving grace there for accounts.
Yeah, and that's the thing is they have gone through on the Rockstar's platform and added all the things to link your Xbox account, your PlayStation account, your Steam account,
everything.
Epic account. All those things are built in, so they're able to migrate these things back and forth. It seems like pretty easily. So I wanted to talk here really quickly about there's this technology that came out about a chip that's
a potato chip
speeding up the ability to transfer internet traffic.
Okay.
And I thought it was really interesting how they're doing this, and they're using photonics because, of course, right now fiber is one of the fastest and most reliable ways to send data over long distances using light. And so with these fiber connections, they have a chip that's now able to also bring in the different colors of light and makes it so that they can transfer the internet traffic in a single second. So the internet's current traffic, they can transfer in a single second using this new chip on this chip. So it's transferred over a petabit of per second, according to this research done in Sweden and Japan. That's over 1 million gigabits of data per second with a fiber optic cable. So it's pretty much the whole internet's worth of traffic that they're able to do over that.
And
so
it looks like they're accomplishing this by doing, and you mentioned the different colors of light, they're doing more multiplexing. So they're claiming that they are doing 223 channels worth of data because of multiplexing in a single fiber optic cable. Which is 1.84 petabytes a second. That's astonishing.
Yeah, they split the data stream into 37 sections, one for each core of fiber optic cable, and then they split those into 223 channels, which removes a lot of that interference that slows down optical systems. Because you got to think of how optics works. This is one thing when I got certain certifications. Part of the issue is the light is bouncing inside of the cable like this. And so, if they have a more narrow cable or narrow strand, that the fiber, the optics cable, then it's less of that kind of up and down bounce. They're trying to get it to go forward, and it actually does change the speed that it goes down the cable at long distances. With this, they were able to do some different changes. Yeah, exactly. So you can see how it bounces. That does make a difference. And so I would bet you that getting some of the smaller cables and breaking it down does help quite a bit.
Well, and another thing you deal with at a distance is attenuation. When you're sending in this case, a beam of light hundreds of miles or whatever, the beam is attenuated by the time it gets to the end, and that affects throughput. It's less data because it's literally ping-ponging back and forth throughout the entire strand. It's pretty amazing. It's honest to God amazing how it works in the first place, that all of those pieces of light go through and they don't collide with each other. It's astonishing that it even works at all, and that they can get the speeds up like this. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and they said that with this, the big breakthrough was what they call microcombs, which are a way to generate constant and measurable frequencies of light. So it's not only useful for shrinking down the requirements for a system such as this, but also recently breaks through adding to CMOS chips. So we'll see, having now the ability between countries using this new technology to send huge amounts of traffic. Because right now they have cables going between countries. At some point, we reach peak capacities when sending these data, and so they have to lay new cables. It sounds like with this, doing this new style of cable and using this new chip, they'll be able to lay one cable down between countries that's now the current bandwidth of the internet. And I'm sure they could lay multiple of these cables and really up the bandwidth. So pretty cool. We always think that we're hitting some sort of a cap when it comes to technology. I remember I've talked about this before, but I remember back in the 90s when we hit the 100 megahertz on chips, and people were saying you cannot go over 100 megabits because, or 100 megahertz because the heat. There's just no way to keep the heat down enough. We'll never make it over 100 megahertz. And yeah, it's like, well, technology happened, and now look where we're at. So things like this breakthroughs, where whatever cap they thought they were reaching on bandwidth has been broken. So just by doing it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
All right.
Very, very cool.
Another follow up. We've been talking about this a little bit. Is with China.
Yes,
Tencent shareholders. Here's the title from PC Gamer. Tencent shareholders drown their sorrows as Chinese tech crackdown makes it less valuable than a booze firm.
Well, hold on a second.
So a hostile environment.
Yeah, hold on. Why are we trying to say that something is wrong with a booze firm? I mean, there's alcohol vendors they make a whole bunch of them. Look at Anheuser-Busch and all these companies. I mean, they make a fortune, Brian. This seems like it is very discriminatory against people that drink alcohol.
Well, who knows?
I might do.
I'm sure in China they don't like alcohol either.
No, don't they drink
hostile
it?
environment.
I thought beer was big in China.
Well, yeah, I mean, and they have sake in Japan. I don't know what they drink a lot of in China.
Maybe we'll take a trip.
Hostile environment for Chinese tech companies has seen Tencent undergo a big reversal of fortunes. Because, I mean, how long have we talked about how huge Tencent has been and how unstoppable Tencent has been? And it's amazing that their own country, the own country that has pretty much set them up in the way that they are, is now bringing them down, per se. I mean, as far as their stock prices, they're trading at between $50 and $90 per share a year ago, and we're one of the most valuable companies in China. And lately they're just been dropping a huge amount. And it's been a lot about this tech crackdown that China's been doing, the strict COVID policies that they've been doing. And so it's been limiting a lot of areas of China, and tech has been one of them, and especially gaming, because they view this as a threat to their youth and a threat to their, I guess, manliness of the country, is how they've said it. One thing they said is that what they have been overtaken, because they were one of the most valuable companies. Now they've been overtaken by a company that specializes in Maotai rice wine. So now they're one of the top companies. So I guess people being not very happy about COVID and being indoors for their lockdowns have now turned to drinking.
Well, maybe living in a communist hellhole and working your ass off for your entire life and have nothing to show for it also causes people to drink.
Well, and you've got that. Remember that MMO that was where they were working with Amazon, and Amazon kind of threw their hands up in the air and just said they couldn't work with Tencent.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that have been happening to where they're losing these contracts. The game approvals also, they mentioned in this article, there's no sign of that really letting up. China is still holding back and not allowing games to be built, which is really what they relied on. And they're expanding outside, but even the gaming industry, we've seen there's areas of the gaming industry that are struggling as well. So I'm sure that they'll stay alive. I'm sure that they will stay as a company that's fairly strong, but them being the company that was kind of overtaking everybody, we'll see if that continues, or if maybe we'll get a little bit of our holdings back if they have to sell off and try to keep afloat.
There's a couple of things I'm curious about, and one of them is, this is essentially a company. This is essentially a country killing a company that benefits the country, and that's what is. That's what's so odd is for China's got this plan of world domination and whatever you want to call it, and they're able, and Tencent was a great way for them to do this. You purchase games like Riot, or companies like Riot and League of Legends, you invest in Epic and some of these other firms, you start pushing around your muscle a little bit, start wielding some influence. That would have been a great way for China to try and weasel its way into even more Western entertainment. And because of their own government decisions, they've killed that, or they're in the process of killing that company. There's got to be something more to it that you and I just aren't privy to, because we don't know the geopolitics in China, but it doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't add up in any way, shape, or form.
But that's also the danger. I mean, look, we called this out how early with H1Z1. This was the danger that we saw with H1Z1. Not that we knew that China was going to turn around and hurt them, but I really felt that them abandoning the U.S. market and going so in on China was a dangerous decision to make, because we did see China was very strict. They would say, do this, do that with the game. You can't do this, you can't do this. They were very restrictive and controlling of what H1Z1 was allowed to do, to be in China. And then the problem is H1Z1 let that trickle back to us, where we started seeing changes on our sides here and there from changes they were making over in China. And so that really hurt them, because China doesn't care. I mean, they learned that pretty quick. China doesn't care about your feelings. They don't care whether or not you are making money, or a lot of people in China are playing it. If they feel like they don't like you, guess what? You're gone. They don't have friends in that way. And you would think Tencent would be one of their friends, because it was one of their biggest money makers, but obviously not. They're not afraid. They're willing to just say, all right, you're out.
The whole thing is definitely odd, and I don't write Tencent off. I don't think they're not going anywhere anytime soon. They've made a lot of good, I'll call them power moves over the last couple of years. As I mentioned, companies like Riot, getting into companies like Epic as well. So I think and have a suspicion that maybe they're in a little bit of a lull, but I think overall they'll be fine. I mean, they'll come out of this.
Yeah, and I'm pretty confident that'll happen as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another follow up about Bungie. I just thought this was interesting, because we had talked about some hacks that had happened a while ago. Now the Cheat Maker has a countersuit against Bungie, saying that Bungie had hacked one of their computers in return.
Oh.
So Aim Junkies, which is a pretty well-known cheat provider, they had a lawsuit against them that was dismissed. That Bungie was suing them, and then Bungie refiled that suit, but they came back saying that somehow that Bungie had hacked one of its computers, and in May, or the system of James May, who was one of the managing members of Phoenix Digital during 2019-2021, to perform what it calls a clandestine surveillance in order to conduct further surveillance on parties that include, but are not limited to, Phoenix Digital and its principals. So, this according to them, violates Bungie's own DMCA rules and of course, the Fraud and Abuse Act.
They make cheats for all of these games?
Yes. Yeah, they're one of the biggest.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, no, they're one of the biggest cheat providers.
How much are they?
I don't know. I've seen them like, what, $20? I don't know, probably 20 to 60. There you go. A month. So there's a subscription.
A week?
Pretty much $70 a month.
Oh my
or
God.
$35 a month or a week. So, but here's how it works. You're paying for that, and a lot of times these hacks are changed, or so they do them in spurts, to where they'll have a hack that works for that week. So you pretty much are renting it for a week, I think they give you like an account to play it on sometimes, because those accounts get banned. So it's like a throwaway account that you're renting for a week.
Huh. There's a lot of stuff in here. Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, they're one of the biggest.
This has got to be very lucrative. These are $70 a cheat a month. So if you want to cheat in a couple of games, you're forking out some cash. Yep. Wow.
Well, and some of the big streamers, here's the thing that's crazy, is some of the really big streamers that end up being, having been cheaters, they partner with people because they can't get the regular standard cheats, right? They need to have one, so they get tailored cheats where they'll pay $1,000 a week or $1,000 a month for a cheat that's pretty much only used by them. And then that way, if there's an issue with it, like they get that person will update it for them. So there's some streamers that have their own person who writes their cheats for them.
Wow.
They get into contracts with these companies that, with the really high, because if a bunch of people have that cheat, it's going to get banned quickly, right? So what they do is they pay a lot of money, so they get exclusive rights to whatever that allows them to do that cheat, and then that way it doesn't get banned right away. And people
they've got packages too. They've got a thing called Overdose Plus. They don't have the price on it, and you have to create an account, but you have to use a YubiKey OTP generator to have access to it. You need like auth for it. I mean, this thing has got to be hundreds of dollars a month, if not thousands, as you mentioned. It comes with literally a whole bunch of different games. Wow.
Because they want it to be, because that's the thing, is they're entering in a contract with you because they don't want it to be cheap to where somebody can just log in who works for the company or whatever. They pay for the cheat and then they're able to figure it out right away. So that if you're wanting to get a legit cheat that you're willing to throw down a lot of money for, right? You're going to have it be to where you're the only one who has access to that. There's a lot of steps to get in there because you don't want people getting into it and making the cheat known to where it gets banned right away. Because that cheat, if it's one that's not known yet, is valuable. And so they hold on to it pretty tight.
I mean, they've got some pretty good marketing. I mean, look at this thing. They've got like a whole, like a monthly thing, like Humble Bundle with some cheap cheats for games. I mean, and now they're suing, now they're counter-suing Bungie?
For hacking them, yeah. For hacking into their system and monitoring them.
Huh.
Yeah, who would have thought? All right.
Well,
okay.
But Brian, drastic.
Well, you never know.
This calls for drastic
welcome
measures.
Welcome to 2022.
Yeah, as we like to say. So I'm very excited because I was just able to, and I installed it today. The new Call of Duty, the campaign is available now, and the multiplayer opens on Thursday, which I'm very, very excited about. And obviously, this Call of Duty is Modern Warfare 2, which is a remake of not a remaster, but a remake of the original Modern Warfare 2. But Microsoft is now out saying that because of previous commitments and deals that they had with Sony, Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty, and I think we talked about this either last week or the week prior, is not coming to Game Pass. And they have they put a filing in their UK's Competition and Markets Authority, which is the equivalent to the FTC here in the US Federal Trade Commission, that the reason that Call of Duty is not as part of Xbox Game Pass library is because Sony and Activision have a current deal that restricts the game's presence on the service. So props to Sony for making Activision sign up to agreeing to these terms. But looking at it right now, it says that the agreement between Activision and Blizzard and Sony that places, quote, restrictions on the ability of Activision Blizzard to place COD titles on Game Pass for a number of years. So it specifically names Game Pass. According to Xbox head Philip Spencer, he said that when he spoke to the Sony representatives in January and confirmed that Microsoft's intent is to honor all of the existing agreements for this. Now, it doesn't indicate how long this will continue in terms of years, because we don't have the full contract, but this is the kind of a blow for Microsoft. One of the more popular, most popular gaming franchises, which by the way now costs $70 because that's the new cost of AAA titles. Not being part of Game Pass is a little bit of a blow for them. But on the flip side, good guy Microsoft for, because I'm sure that they could take this to court and probably at least delay it for long enough to get what they wanted or litigate their way out of it. But they're not. They're sticking by the agreements. They're gonna play it out and let it go as it is. And I guess eventually we'll have Game Pass, Call of Duty on Game Pass. And I can tell you what, once that happens, Brian, I don't know that I'll ever buy a game again. Because as of right now, the only game I really buy instead of stream and will most definitely buy because I can't stream it is Call of Duty. Once that is available on Game Pass to download on PC, there will be nothing left. I mean, there just won't be any reason. There won't be any reason to buy a game.
Well, and these couple of years will go by pretty quick too. I mean, you got to think about it. That's only so many releases of Calls of Duty.
Yeah, maybe one or two more releases. Yeah.
Yeah, one or two more releases, and then that restriction will be off. They'll have met that, and then probably all the Call of Duties that are online or that are available to still play will probably be put on there, and that'll be huge for them. That'll be another big jump in why go with PlayStation Plus? No, let's go with Xbox and the whole streaming service.
So very excited to try out the campaign on that, and the multiplayer comes out Thursday. So if you're a Call of Duty player, hit me up on the old Discord server and get you in a private group that we play with.
Well, and we have more Microsoft news, but I just want to throw this in there. Netflix has confirmed that it's going to be launching a cloud gaming service.
Yeah,
so they have confirmed that.
Now,
and it'll be interesting to see.
This is not the first time that we've heard of Netflix rumors, but also them delving into the video game industry. We saw they had some, and I will admit, I never played them. I didn't even attempt to try and play them. They had these like weird
mobile games, right?
Yeah, it was like these weird companion mobile games for like Stranger Things and stuff like that never really seemed to take off at all. But now it looks
like they released 35 games for mobile. So they have 35 games for mobile so far. Yeah, and they said Tuesday in their earnings release they had an additional 55 games in its pipeline. 14 of those games are being built by Netflix's own studio, this person said, adding that the company was going to launch an additional studio in Southern California soon. The studio would be led by Chaco Sani, who previously served as executive producer for Activision Blizzard's Overwatch franchise. So,
why?
Sounds like maybe they're moving on beyond mobile. I mean, because really, if you're going to be streaming something, why would you just stream mobile games? You could play those locally on the little devices that you're sending Netflix, doing on Netflix.
Who is playing these games, Brian?
I think they throw out just for whatever these little series are. I mean, I can only imagine what kind of game they have for that Dahmer series if they did anything. But just the games that they're these TV series that are popular. They'll throw out some cheap. It seems like they're kind of cheap little quick games that have to do with that series. Because you don't really hear about them. It's not like they're hitting top 10 of mobile games. I mean, they threw out 35 of them. Yeah, they're little simple games.
I mean, hold on. I guess I need to pull up the old App Store here and see what I can find. Netflix.
Yeah,
Langon says just the other week you were boasting numbers of mobile games. Yeah, the popular ones. The question is, did you even know that Netflix had 35 mobile games? I'm pulling up
and they'll have 90 here pretty soon. That's a huge number of mobile games for a single company to be putting out.
I mean, nobody's playing them because
not sure how many of those are mobile.
Stranger Things. Can you look up while I'm doing this, Brian? Can you look up how many people streamed Stranger Things, like how popular that show is? Because I just pulled up the strange. It's called Stranger Things 1984. This is the official app that is developed and built by Netflix, and it is available on the iOS App Store. And looking at the numbers on this game, in terms of total reviews, this is total reviews. It has 475 total reviews. Now, Brian, do you have those numbers as to how popular the Stranger Things series is?
All right, so it's in the top 10, and so they're saying that it accounted for 64.8 million hours streamed.
Okay.
Oh well, I think. Let me make sure that this is the one they're talking about. Oh wait, that's the Lincoln Lawyer. Hold on, let me. Okay, here we go. Stranger Things debuted Friday and broke the premiere weekend record for an English language TV show on Netflix, which with 286.7 million hours streamed.
And the game has less than 500 total reviews on the iOS App Store. You can see it's ranked 150th in the adventure chart across the App Store.
It was the number one spot in 93 countries.
I mean, the reviews look fine, I'm sure, but nobody's playing them. Nobody even knows that they exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any. I don't know how you can have I don't know how you could have Stranger Things, one of the most popular series of all time, on a mobile game app. And by the way, there's no promotion for it. You would think in the show they would have maybe done some stupid plug for it like they did with everything else. They didn't. Nobody even knows that the game exists.
I think they're doing these very generic games because you can pre-design a lot of these games and then you just toss out the graphics, depending on the style of game. Yeah, you change out the assets a little bit and they're all top-down pixel games. They don't do 3D games. And so until you start getting something that's more playable and has more depth to it, because they're not voice acted, they're all pixel games. It's just they're not the type that people want to play for long periods of time. And this is one of the top games, but you know what? To make a game that's really playable would take a long period of time. You can't pre-design it and make it super generic and then toss your graphics that you generated in.
Oh my God, there's like a gazillion games on that Netflix has built. There's a SpongeBob game. There's there's a couple of cooking games. There's Exploding Kittens is on here. Dungeons and Dwarves, Domino Cafe, Kittens, Wonder Putt Forever, which is a miniature golf game. I didn't even know any of these things existed. This is wild. And by the way, see, here's the thing, though. This is unlike a mobile game, a regular mobile game, because you have to have a Netflix subscription to play them. These are not free-to-play games that offer pay-to-win or skins or anything like that. No, literally, it says it right in I'm looking at this mini golf game, and it says, available exclusive for Netflix members. So you have to have a Netflix subscription to even get access to this stuff. So that's not unlike Candy Crush or Castle Crowd, whatever the hip kids are playing these days, whatever they're doing on mobile, they're not doing any of this. So to me, it just seems like a complete waste of time for Netflix because they're not making any money.
No, they're not making money, and it's not really a draw. It's not like, I'm going to maintain my Netflix subscription because these games are awesome.
Netflix does a whole bunch of advertising on traditional television. I've never seen them advertise a game. I've never seen them advertise that they make mobile games. It makes no sense, especially when you've got hot series like Stranger Things. Why would you not promote it?
Well, I have to see if there's a Dahmer one. Did you watch that Dahmer series?
No, I don't know what that is.
Dahmer? I mean, it's about Jeffrey Dahmer, and it goes into there's a lot of controversy with it. As far as because he only killed pretty much gay men, and so they turned a lot of it into kind of a
there's
talking
no
about
Jeffrey
that
Dahmer
issue.
game.
And
you really thought that they were going to make a game about a serial killer?
Well, that would be an interesting one to play. I'd just say that'd be more interesting. That'd probably get people to play it. You're a serial killer, hunting men down and then eating them. I mean, come on. Wouldn't that be an interesting game to play?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm sure
to get headlines.
I'm sure there's an email that feedback@netflix.com. You
got to figure out how to slip them a drug to get them to fall asleep.
I disavow all of these comments. I do not sign off. These are if you have any comments on this, Brian@infectionpodcast.com is where you can send your emails. I have nothing to do with this.
All right, let's go back to Microsoft. I just figured we're talking about streaming and everything.
Yeah.
So let's talk about cloud, because Microsoft, they're going through this merger, they're wanting to do it. And so Microsoft now is saying, they have a bleak outlook on the future of cloud gaming because
What?
they don't want to seem like because they're trying to downplay their threat of what damage they could do to other companies. They're saying, I don't during the short term, I don't see a lot of, this streaming thing doesn't seem like a real strong thing.
Meanwhile, it's like 30% of the revenue for the Xbox
investigation
division.
Yeah. And so, it's kind of funny because they've been talking publicly, they have this really bullish stance on the xCloud service. But, when it comes down to talking about it in their legal court papers, all of a sudden, this streaming thing, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. It's not, what could it possibly do, to competition and, the Stadia, that was, of course, that nothing. See, nobody likes streaming. Look at Stadia. It's kind of their argument. And so people are looking at the Stadia thing and saying, well, maybe, but long term, it is the thing. And I think that, if they can get this temporarily, because there's another article here, they're talking about Microsoft does not play the cloud like immature technology. They're saying it's really immature technology, short term, it's going to take a while to ramp up. But I think long term, it definitely is, especially with what we've seen with the hardware market really plummeting. Yet PC gaming seems to be pretty strong because I didn't put them in here, but Steam's numbers, they had 30 million concurrent Steam people on. Steam's doing really strong. So obviously people don't just want to play on consoles. But you know what? I think people are going to get to a point where they don't really see the difference anymore. It's kind of like, do you watch where do you watch Netflix? Or I'm going to watch Netflix on a Netflix device? No, you watch Netflix on your phone. You watch Netflix on your Xbox. You watch Netflix on your computer. You watch Netflix wherever it is. And I think that's what we're going to see with the streaming. You're no longer looking at, I'm going to go play on my Xbox. I'm going to go play Call of Duty. Does it matter where you play Call of Duty?
No.
Does it matter what you play Call of Duty on? No, not anymore. You're just going to go play Call of Duty, just like I'm going to go watch some Netflix. Because you don't ask people, what are you playing? What are you going to watch Netflix on? Does it matter? No, it doesn't actually. And I think that we're waiting for it to get to that point. Right now, it does matter. You just say, I'm going to go stream a game. Well, what are you going to stream a game on? Because that way we get to, whether or not I get to play with you. It's just, I'm going to play on Xbox. I'm going to play this game. Doesn't matter how, because you'll still be able to play with you, and it's not going to affect how you play with me. Right? I think we're working our way to that. But as Microsoft said, the technology is still new and a little bit immature. And they said they don't think it'll become more popular in the near future. But in the long term, it will. But that's why they're saying in the near future, we don't think it'll be that popular. Of course, the devices are, they're not releasing their little streaming disc or whatever in the near future. I think once they start putting that out instead of consoles, then it's going to blow up because people will be streaming on decent internet connections instead of buying a console and getting the high-end graphics. Because that'll probably be the next release, right? Do you think the new Xbox Series X, whatever they come out and call it next, what do you think they're going to do next? Do you think it's going to be a big device that has something beyond ray tracing that does 8K stream or 8K screen resolution and things like that, or do you think they're just going to stream to you at 8K?
So I'm trying to pull up the Xbox Wikipedia because I want to look at times here. So the Xbox 360 came out in 2005. The Xbox One came out in 2013. So that's an 8-year or 7-year gap. No, excuse me. That is it's a 7-year gap there. And then the Xbox Series X and S came out in 2020. So that was also a 7-year gap. So the question is going to be, by 2027, what will we be into? And if I
think they're going to start pushing people to streaming by that point, where you'll be like, well, do I even care at that point whether or not they have a new console? Because it's going to be the same thing that I'm playing on the streaming.
If Microsoft and Xbox are smart, I'm convinced what they need to do is they need to make a they need to either partner with Roku, which I still stand by would be a phenomenal idea.
Yeah.
That would be my first preference, is partner with Roku and make a Roku Xbox, or make their own smart TV device that does everything and does the Xbox Cloud. Because I think
that's what we've seen, right? That little circle.
But it's got to do more.
They're going to do.
But it has to do more than just play the Xbox Cloud, because the problem you've got is newer televisions have limited limited HDMI ports, and you're saying, then you get back to the old thing of, all right, I'm switching to an input just to do one single thing. The way that, especially for a streaming service, if you can have it integrated into, well, we saw already, it's was it the new LG or the new Samsung TVs? I think it was Samsung's, maybe. Maybe it was LG. I don't remember what it was, but they have the Xbox Game Pass built right into them now. So that, to me, that's the solution here. You've got to partner with Roku or somebody to do this, so that you can have a device that not only does xCloud or Game Pass, but also does everything else. And then guess what? You not only dominate the console market, you dominate the OTT market. And that's and Roku's dominating the OTT market right now. No argument about it.
Well, I think the thing that I think Microsoft is going to have to do, though, is I think they really got to focus on making their interface for Xbox easier to use. Because right now it's kind of a mess. I mean, if you know the interface, you're like, okay, that makes sense. But you know what? They need to make it to where a person can come up, just like on Netflix. When you go to Netflix, you just start browsing around and kids can do it. But you know what? You hand a person who's never played an Xbox before a controller, and you say, all right, go find this game and launch it. Well, where do I go? Okay, all games. Okay, is it installed? How do I get? It's just they've got so many things on the screen. I think they're going to have to simplify it down to where you have, okay, I'm going to play this game, or here's my apps list. I'm going to stream on Netflix. Make it to where it's easy to jump and you're not having to figure out how to set it up to where it replaces whatever streaming device that you were using to play Netflix on, or whatever your streaming platform is. Whatever that was, you're now replacing it with a little circle that has Xbox on it as well, where that becomes kind of like our Roku. Here, I replaced all of my Fire TVs with Rokus.
Coming to the good side.
Roku does all the streaming. Yeah, Roku does all the streaming for me. Well, how are you going to pull me off of a Roku? Is give me something that has all of my apps.
Yes.
And is in a nice interface that I have the ability to lock down, right? Because that's something I couldn't do on the Fire TV. I kind of do it on Roku, not really actually, because it makes you use one interface. But Microsoft's gotten really good about their family features, where you can say to your kids, all right, you can have this much Xbox time, you can have this much Netflix time. That's what's going to get parents to switch over. And I've kind of convinced you a little bit that the parent thing and parental controls, I think, is kind of the future of which one is going to be dominant in the platform. And Microsoft Family will allow me to say, I will allow my kid on their account to watch 1 hour of Netflix, to play 2 hours of whatever game they're happening to play at the time, to do this much of this and this much of that. The one that does that, and a parent can easily manage it on their cell phone, that's the one that's going to replace all of it, because they have that one device and they don't have to worry about what their kids are doing anymore. And it's locked down. They can only log into their account.
I agree.
That's what's going to take it over.
Yeah, and that's going to be the question is how does Microsoft want to slay this dragon? Do they want to try to do it internally? All which I would say will probably lead to a subpar platform. We saw things like XBMC in the past that they attempted to do that were just garbage interfaces and platforms. Or do they partner with somebody? Hell, maybe if Amazon wants to, and I know they're kind of direct competitors, but if Amazon really wanted to come out and say, you know what? Yeah, we know Roku's kind of cleaning our clocks here in terms of the streaming devices. Maybe Amazon says, hey, we need to partner with Microsoft, and all the Amazon Fire devices need to be the official device and come to some agreement. I am convinced it has to be somebody besides Microsoft, because I don't think that they've got the I don't even know what you'd call it. I don't think they have what it takes.
They haven't done well with hardware
device.
devices.
No, look at the Windows phones. The Lumina, they were garbage.
The Windows Phone was a loser. Oh. But make a platform that you can build on whatever hardware. The thing is people, they're always trying to do these operating systems, and that's what it really comes down to.
Well, let me say
They're
this.
going to have to make an open source platform that people can, or not necessarily open source, but some sort of a thing that people can then install on devices that has the ability to do this.
Well, and
Make
see,
it an
that's
app. I mean, why does they need to control it?
that's where I was going to take this. Is you could handle it two ways. You could either partner with somebody and do the exclusivity for your device, or you can take the Steam Deck approach with SteamOS and say,
Yeah,
it's open. Please build it into your platform. If Microsoft was smart, that's what they would do. They would work with Roku and Amazon, because essentially that's the only two OTT devices. Get the app integrated really well into their platform, and then now you have to do nothing. And it's their app that they're managing, and you just essentially sit back and you just have now added this many more users to your potential ecosystem.
See, but Roku right now is in a really bad spot. And the reason is they don't have the ability to hook a controller up to any of their devices right now.
But that
cannot hook a Bluetooth controller.
There's no way that
ability
can't be
to hook up
changed.
Bluetooth. I don't know what their hardware is inside, whether
But
or not they have a
it's-
normal Bluetooth chip.
They do have a normal Bluetooth chip, because you can add, I believe so, because I think you can add a Bluetooth
Headphones, right?
yes, a headset or
soundbar?
something like that. Yes, something like that to it. I
Okay,
believe.
so they need to unlock that then, because that's what's hurting them right now, is you can't really use it for simple. I mean, because they've got little apps where you can play certain games on there. You can't hook up a little controller to it to be able to play on there. Why? There's no reason not to. Like, why are they limiting their platform and not allowing you to put little games on your device, or putting an emulator for old games and things like that on there to where you can play. And I feel like that's why they're doing it, is they don't want people playing emulated games on their device, so they lock down controllers. But I think that's silly. Open it up, and then that way you can have Xbox put their app on there and play it on your Roku.
Yeah, and that is the biggest problem with Roku in terms of comparing them to Amazon, is you can jailbreak an Amazon, you can sideload apps to a Fire TV stick, and that makes it a very lucrative platform for maybe some less than legal content, Brian, that you can stream on something like an Amazon device. But it also creates some problems where the devices tend to be a little bit sluggish, a little bit slower. Maybe the user experience isn't exactly the best either. So it's very much a catch-22 for these platforms. But how Microsoft handles this, and how they want to go into the future, hardware is a losing industry. It always has been. Hardware is expensive. The R&D costs you literally a literal fortune. Then you've got to support the devices. Go back, if you want to see how terrible hardware can be, go back and look at the Xbox 360 Red Ring of Death controversy and the hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars that Microsoft had to just ostensibly eat because of their issue with the Red Ring of Death on the Xbox 360. You don't have to deal any of that with software. You can put out an update and a patch, and it's solved and resolved within, as long as it takes for an update to propagate. So, but here's the other thing too. One other point, and then I'll turn it back to you. They're already in development of the next Xbox right now, most likely.
Yeah.
What are they developing right now for the future is the question.
Well,
because you got to remember,
here's one
the
thing.
2027 Xbox isn't developed in 2026. It's being developed right now. And are we farther? Are we progressed far enough right now where they can see the future on that and take the gamble of making a device that is that? Now, I will note, one of the Xboxes and one of the PlayStation 5s don't have disk drives, so they're practically there anyway. It's just making it a cheaper device that doesn't do anything.
And that segues into my next issue that I think is going to kind of help make this decision.
Okay.
Developers are claiming that many studios are asking Xbox to drop the mandatory Series S compatibility. Now, they have the Series S, which is the weaker one, and then they have the Series X, which has all the higher-end hardware on it. Has the ability to do ray tracing and things like that, has an SSD, bigger hard drive, all of this. Well, I think that they're going to then split off. Rather than doing this weaker S like they've done in the past, I think what they're going to do is they're going to have the streaming. The S will be the streaming version, and then they'll have the full powered version, if anything. and get rid of this weaker version that runs on hardware. Because as they're finding out, developers are now having to either limit the capabilities of their game so they don't have to maintain two totally different versions of the game to be because right now for them to make a game on Xbox, they either have to weaken it down to something that can run on the S, or they have to have two versions of it, one made for the S and one made for the X that has
Let me
enhanced
ask you this
capabilities.
though. Why can't they just do two different quality versions like a PC game? I'm not. I know that an Xbox isn't a PC.
You mean like a slider box?
Well, I mean, just thinking about it, Call of Duty doesn't make 100 different versions of Call of Duty for the PC to handle different specs. You adjust the graphics in the game. Why not? Why can't they do something similar to that for I guess it's just not built into the platform, maybe? I'm not sure. There seems to me there have to be a way to scale textures based on resources.
Probably based
would be my thoughts.
Okay, well, I would think too, some of it, look at, for instance, with the new Unreal Engine 5, them building these new crazy graphics. Well, some of those things are reliant on a certain level of hardware to be able to perform those tasks and show those graphics, even though it's really making it work, if you have too weak of a machine, it's not going to be able to even do that. Even if it's scaling it down, it can't do that in real time, right? I think that's the kind of issues they're probably running into. Or they're making games for native 4K. You now have to have two different versions of graphics because can it downsize in real time and compress and show something at much lower of a resolution on the S if you're putting the original graphics in at 4K? It takes resources to do that.
Yeah, but again, I'll make the same point. It doesn't on a PC. You can play Counter-Strike Source on a 25-year-old or a 20-year-old computer with the lowest of low specs, and you can also spend $10,000 on a computer and play it at the highest graphics settings possible. So there just must be something with the Xbox platform where that's not possible. That's what needs to change because this is not a problem on PC. This is only a console problem with having to handle different versioning for specs. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's got to change.
Yeah, because they're saying they're having to optimize it for the lowest performer, and then it's saying an entire generation of games is getting hamstrung by these potatoes. By the Xbox S.
But see, that's also been a point on PC. But again, if you scale up the game or make it
memory constraints too. They're saying the memory constraints are a big pain to work with on it.
Well,
so
again,
that's probably something that maybe you can't scale it down enough to fix. You have to limit your game to fit in that memory, regardless of what the graphics are, and you can't just make it for the memory that the Xbox Series X has.
All right. Well, then hold on. I know we're running a little bit long, but I need to look up the specs of this because it's making out to be that this thing is some, like garbage device that has no specs at all. I just want to see.
And in Microsoft in June, one thing Microsoft did is they did some updates to the Series S one to make hundreds of additional megabytes of memory available to try to give it a little bit more to work with.
So the Xbox Series S has got an 8-core processor that runs at 3.6 gigahertz, which is a custom AMD Zen 2 CPU. It's got 4 teraflops of custom RDNA 2 GPU. It's got 10 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory. It's got a 512 gigabyte custom NVMe SSD built into it. And its performance target is 1440p at 60 FPS a second, up to 120 frames. So this is not some Celeron processor that they shipped in a box. I mean, this is a powerful device, Brian. This has better specs than your computer and my computer probably combined.
Yeah.
This thing supports freaking RTX.
So one thing, Gotham Knights, one of the newer games, they had a tweet that they deleted, but they said Gotham Knights won't have performance options on consoles and runs at 30 frames per second.
But see, that's the developers being lazy. That's not them.
Not making it an option.
But see, and that's it. It is, so that would be the equivalent of, again, Activision or anybody else coming out on PC and saying, yeah, we're not putting quality sliders in the game. You have to have a minimum of a 2070 or 2060 to play this game. And if you have a lower PC, you're shit out of luck. You're no good. And that's not going to work. That doesn't fly.
So they say the developers aren't complaining about the CPU or the GPU. That it comes down to the memory constraints. For whatever the Xbox Series S is using to run and everything, the amount of memory that they end up with in the end is, and that they've freed up a couple hundred megabytes of memory, but whatever they were working with was their biggest constraint, the memory available.
It looks like, so the S has 10 gigabytes, the X has 16. That is a sizable difference. But again,
yeah,
I think there are, is it more work, but can it be done? The answer is yes. So, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
it comes down to laziness, not wanting to.
Well, I think it comes down to laziness and just and that's the thing is, how important for you is it as the developer? Is it important to have, for people that spent $600 on a console? Is it important for them to have a better looking game than somebody spent $300? If so, then you need to put in the legwork for it. That's all.
Yep.
I'll end my rant there.
And we'll see. We'll see. And then we'll see if they do this S thing again, or as I said, maybe they'll just have a streaming device and not worry about a weaker one, but you'll have one that streams with no discs that you can put in or anything else, and then they'll have the one that's the standard that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, so streaming device that's $60 and then a console that's $500 or whatever.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, if you want to find me, get me at Brian Aldridge on Getter, Truth Social.
I have a stroke.
All the other ones that I'm in. But of course, Twitter, I'm at Boise Computer because there's someone else who took my name on there. If you want to go to my blog, that's biteoftech.com. And of course, if you go to our website, infectionpodcast.com, you can go check out the upper right-hand side, join our server on Discord. And if you do that, you can go and join one of our 11 ARC servers. We've got a Conan Exile server running on there. A lot of different things that you can do there. There's a news channel. Maybe there's a topic that you think we should be covering that we're not. Just toss a link in there, and we'll review that before the live show starts. If you want to watch the live show, you can do that on Twitch and YouTube, or you can go to the lower right-hand side and check out one of the podcast forms of the show. And all of those, we've got a lot of different platforms and ways to listen, but those are recorded and then uploaded once the show is done. So if you're going to be doing that, Nick will have already posted this particular episode show notes. And so you can click on that, and there's a nice video and audio player in there and links for every topic that we discuss. So if there's a source material that you want to go check out, or maybe a video that you want to watch that you were having to listen to, just pull up that page and you can go check it out there. If you want to support us, there is a support option up in the menu, or infectionpodcast.com/support.
Yes, sir. Brian, thank you very much. It greatly appreciated. As always, great show. And quick programming note for our live listeners. We'll be live next Tuesday. That's November the 1st. But then the week after that, we'll be live on November the 9th. That is a Wednesday coming up. So if you're a live viewer, live audience member, just be advised of that. 2 weeks from now, we will not be here on a Tuesday, but on a Wednesday. Brian, thank you so much. As always, greatly appreciated. And we'll see you next week.
We'll talk to you soon.
Alrighty, folks, thank you so much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. You can check out my daily political antics at nickcraig.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.